One of the narrow cobblestone streets of the small town gleamed like gold with the first rays of the morning sun, and after rain, it shimmered blue with the reflection of the sky. In a modest house at the corner of these streets lived Willie, a mischievous, charming, and remarkably clever boy. His curly chestnut hair framed his face, his green-flecked eyes sparkled with curiosity, and there was always a playful smile at the corner of his lips. He carried himself with a quiet confidence, as if he knew secrets far beyond his years but wasn't quite ready to share them all. Willie was no ordinary child. While his friends ran around chasing games, he lingered in the marketplace, listening to poets standing at its corners, secretly scribbling verses onto scraps of paper. His father called him "my little wordsmith," and his mother proudly told everyone, "My boy's dreams are bigger than the sky itself." One morning, a traveling poet arrived in the town square, tall and thin-faced, wearing a crimson velvet cloak. In one hand, he held a quill. Over his shoulder hung a weathered satchel. His name was Master Alaric. Standing at the center of the square, he called people to gather around and began to speak in a voice that carried like music. "Know this. Words are sharper than the strongest sword. They open locked doors and warm the coldest hearts." Willie's heart pounded. It felt as if those words had been spoken for him alone. From that day on, Willie followed Master Alaric whenever he could. He listened to his poems, memorized his stories. One afternoon, he gathered his courage and asked, "Sir, will you teach me to speak like you?" Alaric smiled. "I can, Willie. But this path is not just about words. You will need 4 things: to understand the power of words, to give of yourself, to know love, and to touch people through art." Alaric took Willie to the marketplace. Among stalls of apples, fabrics, and the scent of fresh bread, he said, "Now, imagine you want to help a beggar, but you have no coin. You must give hope with your words alone." Willie walked over to an old man sitting in the corner. Kneeling beside him, he spoke softly. "Sir, the sky is clear today, which means tomorrow the sun will rise for you again. And I promise, tomorrow I'll bring you bread with my own hands." The old man's eyes filled with tears. In that moment, Willie realized that words weren't just sounds. They were a force that could feed the soul. A week later, a grand play was to be performed in the town's theater. But the curtains were torn, and the stage stood bare. Merchants and the wealthy refused to help. Alaric turned to Willie. "Art sometimes asks for sacrifice. Your time, your effort, even your comfort." That day, Willie worked from dawn until dusk in the market, earning a few copper coins. He spent it all on red fabric for new curtains. When he carried it into the theater, the actors embraced him. That evening, as the play began, Willie wasn't on stage, but in his heart, he felt the loudest applause of all. In the first days of spring, a new family moved to town. Their daughter, Eleanor, was quiet and shy. The other children avoided her, finding her odd. One evening, Willie saw her sitting alone on the old wooden bridge. He sat beside her and pulled a small scrap of paper from his pocket, reading a poem he had written. "When one heart meets another, fear melts and friendship blooms anew." Eleanor smiled. From that day forward, they were inseparable. Willie learned that love came not only from family but also from the bonds of friendship. At the year's end, the town square bloomed with colorful flags for the festival. Performers filled the streets: acrobats, singers, dancers. Willie stepped onto the stage with a quill in hand and a small notebook. At first, the townsfolk watched with curiosity. Soon, they listened in quiet awe. Willie's words painted the cobblestone streets, the scent of the earth after rain, the laughter of children. Even the oldest baker wiped his eyes. "This boy hasn't just given us words, he's given us his soul," he said. That night, Alaric approached Willie. "You are no longer just a listener, but someone whose words can change hearts." Willie smiled. "But I still have so much to learn." Alaric nodded. "Yes, but remember this. If a person can build bridges with words, they can change the world." Years later, the townspeople still remembered the poems from that festival. Willie grew up, traveled to distant cities, wrote plays, and built stages. Yet no matter how famous he became, at the beginning of every play, he always wrote these lines. "Words are a doorway. Open it, step through, and share the world inside." And behind that doorway still stood the mischievous, charming boy with green-flecked eyes, a confident stance, and an endless curiosity, little Willie. He whispered to himself, "To be or not to be, that is the whole question."